Let us now learn by example advanced data types. First, let's learn sequence. A sequence is a list of members and each of the members is denoted by a leading hyphen. So in this example, we have the list of colors or sequence of colors: red, orange, yellow. Here, the white space after the hyphen is very important. If we remove it, then YAML will become invalid. Another example, colors, which is a key. Value is a sequence, which contains 3 elements: red, orange, and yellow. Again, an important thing to note is sequence is an ordered sequence of nodes or items. So if you change the order of elements, the sequence will become a unique or a different sequence. A sequence can also be represented in flow style using square brackets, and each of the members can be separated by a comma within the square brackets. So here is the representation in the flow style, which is equivalent to this sequence or the one here. Sparse sequence. The sparse sequence is a special kind of sequence that can contain null or empty values. Here is an example of a sparse sequence. You see, there are various members which has null values. We can also nest a sequence within another sequence. So here is a sequence that has another sequence color. Green, blue is a part of another sequence, and orange, yellow, brown is part of another sequence. Both of these segments are elements of another sequence. So here the parent-child relationship across different sequences is represented by indentation. An important point to note, we use spaces for representing indentation or a structure. Tabs are not allowed in YAML, and they should not be used in YAML to represent structure. Otherwise, it will make the YAML invalid. Now let's look into another data type, which is called map. Map are used to store name-value pairs. They are mostly used for storing configuration parameters. They are represented as name, followed by a colon, and the space and the value. It is an example, color colon, and red. A map could also be stored as a nested map, which means its value could be another map. So, here is an example of a nested map, where you have an unordered set of name-value pairs. A is 1B as another map as a value, which is C and D, with values 3 and 4 respectively. The important point to note here is map are unordered, so that the sequence or the order in which the items appeared, they do not matter. Here is an example of a compact representation of the above map. This is using curly brackets, and each of the key value pairs is separated by a comma. Another important data structure is pair. Pairs are an ordered list of name values. This is slightly different than maps because it allows duplicate values and it is an ordered list. That means the order of key value pairs has significance. Many programming languages do not have such data type support as their native data type. So in that case, it can be represented as an array of hash tables. Here is an example to the task is a key that has a value that contains explicit tag pairs, and each of the items in the sequence are a key value pair, and the meeting is a key that is duplicated multiple times. Here is the flow style representation. So we use here explicitly tag pairs to specify the type of the value, and which is represented as a square bracketed list of key value pairs. Let's move on to another important data type, which is set. Set is an unordered collection of items, and each of the items should be distinct. Here is an example. We have players. There is again explicit typing to set this data type to set, and then each of the values is represented with the help of a question mark and the name of the players. Mark, Stephens, Smith is items in this set. So this flow style representation of a set, which has the name soccer teams, and it has various items: Chelsea, Arsenal, and Liverpool. One more advanced in YAML is the dictionary. Dictionary is a data type where the value in the mapping can be a sequence. Nested mappings are mappings, which can contain an assortment of mappings and sequences. Fruits, for example, is an ordered map. This is explicitly typed by using the tag OMAP. It has an element, apple, which has a value, which is a map, having keys as calories, fat and carbs, with values, and there is another item, banana, and subsequently, we have a map, which is the value of banana. So, this is an example of a nested mapping, where mapping can be an assortment of mappings and sequences. So, fruit is a mapping of sequences in which each of the items is a map. Special features of YAML. Now, let's learn some of the special features of YAML. Anchors. One such special feature is anchor. Let's consider an example. We have data where we have various keys. One key is a strawberry, another one is apple, and for each of these keys, there is associated color, which is represented by the value RGB. So here I want to make both the color have the same value of red. 2550, 25500. So I need to repeat the value twice instead of repeating these values. What I can do is, I can define an anchor, which is called red. I use an ampersand character to define the anchor, and to reference it, I will have to use asterisk or star character. Now what this means is, the value of 25500 is being referenced here as well. The equivalent data will be as this. This is a great way of reusing values, which you have to repeat multiple times in the document. Merging mapping. One more advanced feature is my merging mapping. This is, if you have a base object, for example, here I have a base object, parent, and it has some of the keys, name and age, which I would also want to reuse in another object, employee. So instead of repeating name and age, again here, what I can do is, I can define an anchor, an ampersand base, or set of these key value pairs, and I can reference it using asterisk sign base again. Also, I need to apply here two less than signs. This represents merge mapping. This makes all the properties of the parent object assigned to the child object. This is again another short form of representing data. I can add additional fields. For example, I have added here very little to do. I can even override some value by saying age is 50. So here we have inherited the value name and age from the parent, but we have overridden it by putting it as 50. So this is one special feature and extension of anchors. Now we can also define a different value mapping. So here there is a default key that has a default value 1. So we use equal and colon to represent default values. If we don't specify the value, then the default value will be applied. These are some of these special features in the YAML. Now we have covered all the language features. Hope you have become familiar and you are feeling comfortable creating and manipulating data.